Welcome into another episode of the show, another crossover episode for you. Hope you're all having a great week. I'm Will Highland, joined with Kyle Diezel. Gonna talk some NFL offseason today, maybe some other stuff as it comes up. A little bit of an agenda-free Sunday for everyone. Hope you're getting through the last few weeks of winter. I believe the first day of spring is on Saturday next week, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. So we're getting there. Speaking of, how are you? And weather report.
yeah. I'm doing well. Just a little rundown from work, but we're thriving. We're still here. Weather report's a little cloudy out there, but there's no snow. But I believe tomorrow and Tuesday is going to be in the 60s here as the high. So no complaints here in Boston as of this upcoming week. Hopefully things are the same up in Maine, or we
Yeah,
got different.
we had a little bit of a scare where we got some snow on Friday night, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's back. But nope. Yesterday in the 50s, cloudy, melted all that back. We don't have a lot of snow left, just the banks really.
Mhm.
Um, and Monday, Tuesday, yeah, it's supposed to rain and be in the high 50s here, so that should get rid of a lot of stuff. Hopefully not wash out too many roads. For us who like to head out with our fishing poles, I'm looking forward to the rivers being uh, iced out. So, um, yeah, good time of year. Good time of year. Heading toward, March Madness, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, World Baseball Classic going on. Big matchup with the Dominican and the United States tonight. Um, but we also, Kyle, have the NFL offseason, which quietly just happens. You know what I mean, man? Like there's not,
Correct.
it just kind of happens. Like you've got the Super Bowl, combine, offseason goes on in March, free agency. Then you got the draft in April, and then we move right into, like we were saying off camera, the OTAs and training camp. Like it's a pretty quiet in terms of pretty quiet timeline, I should say. So it's a good time of year to just break it down, take a look at what's happened so far, look at the draft upcoming. I know the Patriots are drafting 31st. I believe the Rams are drafting 25th. Is that true? Or did you guys traded your pick, right? You traded this year's first, not
Correct.
next year's. All
Our
right, so
We do have the Atlanta's pick. I believe it's the 13th pick currently.
okay, so you have Atlanta's pick. Okay. And well, if it's 13 now, it's going to stay 13 unless they unless you guys get in trouble and have it get forfeited, but only my team does that. Um, anyway, so with the draft, like picking 31 as a team that the Patriots are rebuilding, is going to be different. A lot of people thought, oh, well, maybe they'll trade 31 for a big name receiver.
Hmm.
There was talk about AJ Brown. There's always talk about AJ Brown coming to New England. It's frustrating as a Patriot fan because there's always discussions about big name receivers coming here, and they rarely ever do. Stephon Diggs was probably the biggest name we had had come in and actually produce since Randy Moss. So, with with the draft in mind, like both of our teams are sort of they're both playoff teams. Rams were a win away for the Super Bowl. You guys probably actually would have been drafting like 28th or 29th, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, but you trade that pick to the Chiefs. You're trying to go win a Super Bowl still. You have Stafford saying on the stage he's going to come back for one more year. Patriots obviously go to the Super Bowl, don't win it, but they're still there and they're still ahead of schedule and they bring back a lot of guys. So far, they've only really lost one key contributor. Um, maybe two if you count that Diggs is unemployed right now.
Yeah.
But Chason went to the Commanders. So both of our teams are sort of trying to retool and give it one more go. So what have you made so far of the Rams moves? Obviously, making the big trade with Kansas City was the biggest move to date.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. We kind of, as you mentioned before, something that's been talked about as number one weakness of the Rams was the cornerback position. You saw it throughout the entire playoffs. They're playing against, for example, the Panthers, playing against Seahawks. They were just outmatched in the secondary. They had no chance to even get a stop. They had a couple breaks to go as far as they did, but I think for them, that's kind of the biggest thing is making that trade for McDuffie there, but also then signing also the other former cornerback from the Chiefs. I think the last time the Rams made a trade or signed Chiefs cornerbacks, they had gone to the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly, for both times, being Marcus Peters one of those times
Yep.
brought in.
Marcus Peters. Yep.
So I think this is a huge move. It's all in right now for Matthew Stafford. We don't know if this is his last year. We don't know if he's going to play another year after this. And they have everything set in stone. I think it's a smart move to take. Bringing back Tyler Higbee, I think is Matthew Stafford's one of the favorite targets.
Cameron Curl comes back too.
Who? Cam Curl.
Cameron Curl.
Yep, comes back at safety.
Yep.
Reassurance. I'm hoping this year bringing in these new cornerbacks and hopefully this D line can bring a little more pressure will help us solidify to return back to the Super Bowl. Offensively, nothing needs to change. You have probably the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver, dual threat running backs, top 5 offensive line. As of last year, probably the best quarterback in the league. So I think this team right now is set to the goal is you have to win a Super Bowl with everything you have. There's no chance, but also still keeping in mind the future. You're not trading everything away to go onward, but I wouldn't be also surprised this year's draft if they traded down this first pick, meaning they get 2 maybe picks for next or for the second round, or maybe pick up a draft for next year, maybe trade for this year.
Yeah. I think that your defense is certainly going to be better than it was last year. I know going into championship week, especially after the Patriots won earlier in the day, we're like, well, we want to play the Rams because their defense isn't as good as Seattle's. And the Rams were a weird 2-point conversion play away from hosting that game, and maybe that game goes differently if it's at SoFi. I don't know, but um, the Rams defense certainly, if there was a weak point last year, was that. So addressing that by bringing in Watson and McDuffie and bringing back Cameron Curl is big and solidifying the secondary. The one thing I would sort of wonder as a neutral fan, being your friend, I want the Rams to do good, but like I don't have a I don't have a hard time really like caring one way or the other, I should say. But like as a neutral observer, like the Rams offense was really good last year because Matt Stafford was the MVP. You would need a 39-year-old, 40-year-old Matt Stafford to have the same year in order to be as good as you were offensively this year.
Correct.
Because and what I would say is that like Devontae Adams has been in the league a long time. Like he's not getting any faster. Obviously, Nakua is in his prime and is like probably the best possession receiver in the league, from a pure catch volume standpoint.
Correct.
But he might not be as explosive as some other guys in the league, but from a reliability, like finding the open guy, catch volume, yards after the catch, like he's that guy, possession receiver. But Devontae Adams isn't really that guy, and he's not getting any faster. And obviously, Matt Stafford at age 39 or however old he's going to be next year, you are um you are sort of playing with fire if you're like banking on him being like another uh having another MVP caliber season. That said, I still think the Rams can compete for a Super Bowl if Matt Stafford is uh good. Like if he's just good, kind of like Brady was in his like last couple of years in Tampa. Like Brady had MVP level years with the Buccaneers, but he also had years where he was okay. But that team, he dragged that team to the playoffs because that's who he was, and he had a good surrounding cast. And that's the one thing the Rams have addressed this offseason is having a good surrounding cast. So that's the good news on that front. The only other piece of bad news that I haven't mentioned would be that the defending Super Bowl champions are in the NFC West, and the San Francisco 49ers always seem to be in the mix as well. no matter what happens on their personnel side of things. So I think the NFC is going to be really competitive, and you have to wonder like, is Detroit going to be better than they were? Are the Buccaneers going to be better than they were? Because their rosters, to me, and I know the Buccaneers lose Mike Evans, but Mike Evans goes to San Francisco, so it's that might actually make it worse for the Rams. Philly, I would think, is going to be better next year as well than they were this year. Hopefully, they can figure out their locker room problems. But it's a long way of saying that, yeah, the Rams have made some really good adjustments and some really good additions, but the road ahead is going to be really difficult. And that's why in my opinion, I think you should keep the 13th overall pick if you truly want to go all in. LA should keep the 13th overall pick and draft a high impact player in the who can impact the team positively in their first year. Kind of like what we had with um, Christian Gonzalez in his first year, for example.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with it. I mean, it just depends what's on the board, and
Yeah,
what the plan is. We know there's not really it's not a quarterback draft this year, so there's really no need to worry about finding Stafford's replacement right away. But I do think an impact player is going to be crucial. Whether that is a wide receiver number three, whether that is a cornerback number 3 or 4, potentially another linebacker, like you said, someone that's going to make an impact right away for this team. Stafford isn't getting younger. The NFC is still probably the hardest conference out of the two right now.
absolutely.
I mean, like you mentioned before, the Seahawks, Super Bowl champs, they're going to come back again. Minus the MVP they had is no longer going to be with them. They'll be over. He'll be over in the AFC. Kenneth Walker there, the Chiefs. Niners did get a little bit better. Mike Evans, he's also very injury prone. I can't name the last time he played a full healthy season in recent years.
Well, two
He's
years ago, he set the all-time reception record. So, I mean, that was probably his best year, and that was with Baker, not Tom Brady. So, I would
correct.
say, like, he is older, much like Devontae Adams. He's not getting any faster, but he
No,
plays a little bit more like Nakua than Devontae Adams. So,
correct. But he's going to a Niners team that's been plagued with injuries for the last umpteen years. You could say now in the last 3 years they've caught.
yeah,
I can't name them from being healthy. I mean, we're surprised Christian McCaffrey was the only guy who didn't get hurt at all last year, until I think it was the last game he got hurt, against the Seahawks. But you're right. The Eagles will get better. That's for sure. My other concern is special teams. Hopefully, we can get that figured out because that played us the majority of our games, as you mentioned, for us to win. Should have beat the Eagles. 2-point conversions, whatever. We shouldn't have that missed punt against or the mishandled punt against the Seahawks to allow them to score on the first or second drive there. So those just middle mistakes. Hopefully, we're able to fix that around. But otherwise, I think we'll be fine. Matthew Stafford's going to play. Always just play fine. He has the talent still, athletically in his arm, and I think that's what's going to keep him going. I mean, he had the back scare last year that everyone thought he was never going to return. So I think they're going to be fine this year. I think they're going to be competing with the Seahawks, the Niners, the Eagles, all those teams. I mean, they are the number 2 this year going in, so it's a little bit lighter schedule compared to last year.
yeah, yeah. So with Seattle winning the division, you're gonna end up probably playing you're gonna play probably the Packers instead of the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
That actually might not be in your favor, like, depending on how you want to look at that. But you're gonna get, let's see, are you gonna end up getting the who finished second in the East? Would it have been the Cowboys or the Giants?
I think it was the Cowboys.
You get the Cowboys, winnable game. Then you either get Tampa or Atlanta. Um,
Uh,
but
yeah, I think it was Tampa.
yeah, I mean that could go for you, but do you think the Bears and Panthers are going to be as good next year as they were this past year? To me, that's the theme going into the NFL
Correct. I
offseason.
mean,
Going into
we
the
don't.
whole NFL season is there's last year there were a lot of teams that were supposed to be good that weren't, and a lot of teams that were supposed to be bad that were good. And going into this season is, well, does that pattern continue or do we see another like musical chairs? Um, because like you don't want to be what happened to the Buccaneers where they had a bad losing streak and they didn't make the playoffs despite winning their final game of the season. They
Yeah.
needed they needed somebody else to lose and that the Falcons didn't lose. And similarly in the AFC, the Ravens, they had a bad losing streak to start the year and then they finished pretty well, but it wasn't too little too late. So Chiefs, another same thing. Chiefs Chiefs lost a lot of games they shouldn't have lost last year. So, I mean, that's how I look at it with both conferences. Is it's not a guarantee. So yeah, you're playing a second place schedule, but are those second place teams going to be better than the first place team? I'm not sure. You know, I'm really not sure. Do you know what conference you match up or what division you match up for within the AFC?
I think the NFC. I think we're playing the North. I'm not sure we're playing in the AFC yet.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, I think we play everyone. Again, let me take a look here.
So it's not the East because you're not playing us. So you're probably playing who'd you play last year? Play like the Colts or the Titans or anybody like that?
We are playing. Our home opponents are against our normal conference. So we'll play the Packers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Bills, the Chiefs. So we're playing the FC West is what it looks like.
Oh, and then you're gonna get the Bills game as the crossover game. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll play the Eagles again, the Cowboys. Yeah, we'll play also the AFC East apparently is what it looks like this year as well.
Well, you're not playing us, so that Bills game is gonna be the 17th game. When they added the 17th game, we're
Yeah.
gonna get we're gonna get Seattle then.
Yeah, you get Seattle.
Yeah, because we won the division. So second place is Bills, so you get the Bills. Huh. Oh, that Super Bowl rematch. I wonder if they make us go to Seattle for week one, Super Bowl rematch. That would suck.
Uh, isn't it normally or similar or whoever had the best?
No, they're probably going to have you guys go to Seattle for the banner racing game.
Maybe.
Yeah, they're going to, yeah. Here's the thing about New England is we're going to end up playing a lot of primetime games now
Mm-hmm.
because you make the Super Bowl, your guy's second in the MVP voting, your coach is coach of the year. Yep, you're going to end up playing some primetime games.
Yeah, because
So,
your schedule, you guys play one more away game than you do home game this year.
yep, last year was flipped.
You'll be playing away. You'll play besides your regular conference. You'll play the Bears away. You'll play the Chiefs away. You'll play the Lions away. Jags, Chargers, and Seahawks.
Yeah, that's
And
tough.
then at home you'll play your same AFC East there, including Denver, the Packers, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Vikings.
Yeah, so there's some games in there. And look, for New England, like we'll talk about the Pats for a little bit and then we'll kind of open up back to the whole league. My okay, actually one last thought on the Rams. I think you guys should if you keep your pick, should look into the some edge rushers or linebackers as well. If you really want to round out that defense. There's probably and got
In
defensive players at the top of the draft usually turn out better earlier than offensive players. So I would I would think about that. Anyway, New England, we didn't lose that many guys. We lost Vidarian Lowe, who was like our backup tackle, and we lost Kayvon Chason, who I brought up earlier. But we didn't really lose that many guys. We did gain Elijah Vera Tucker, who's sort of replacing
Yep.
Vidarian Lowe. I think we also traded Garrett Bradbury, who was a our backup, one of our backups. Maybe he was our starting center. So we're doing some pro, gosh, let me speak English here. We're doing some not retroactive, retrofitting. That's the word I was looking for. We're doing
Yeah.
some retrofitting of our offensive line because our offensive line was probably the reason we lost the Super Bowl. Um, and So Elijah Vera Tucker, 3 year, $42 million deal. Look that up. We brought in a fullback, so playing some
Hmm.
old school. Mike Vrabel likes that. Brought in Romeo Dobbs. I think he played for the Packers for a little bit. He's not anything special. Um,
It's another
yes,
speed.
we lost Stephon Diggs, but he's still currently unemployed, so there's a chance he comes back, maybe on a different contract. Um, Julian Hill, tight end. Maybe he
Hmm.
replaces Austin Hooper. I'm not sure. Austin Hooper carries Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry carry a lot of cap space with
Yeah.
them. So I'm not really sure what the plan is there at tight end. I think New England should end up drafting a tight end that can be sort of the franchise tight end for Drake May. Because Hunter Henry, I like him, but he's not again not getting any faster. Draymond Jones, defensive lineman, not going to pretend to be an expert on him, but people were pretty excited about him. And then they brought in a safety, Kevin Byard, on a 1 year deal. So they've made a couple, window dressing, a little bit of retrofitting, like I said, of the offensive line. But I think the big question going in for New England that I think the entire NFL world's going to ask is, was last year a fluke, or and was last year a product of a quote unquote easy schedule,
Hmm.
you know, or are the Patriots actually a good team, and does Mike Vrabel make a difference? And my answer is I think they are a good team. I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender last year, from Thanksgiving onward, the same way they were this year. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher sledding. I think the AFC will be better next year. I don't think you're going to have the Colts, for example, completely free fall at the end of the year. You're going to have teams that are good stay good most of the year, so that's going to make it harder for a team like the Patriots to get into the playoffs. And I was thinking before we recorded, we're really talking about 9 teams for 7 spots. And and even some other teams who, like, I think the Dolphins are going to take a step back. Clearly they are. They're rebuilding.
Yeah.
They let go of Tua. I think there's going to be some teams that are clearly going backwards on purpose. Um, but I think there's some other teams that, like, are are you confident saying the Chiefs are going to be as bad as they were? I'm not. I think they're going to make the playoffs. So that's another team that made it this year that can't next year. So for with the AFC, in my opinion, it becomes a math equation. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the AFC is going to definitely get better. I'm not sure about the Chiefs. It's hit or miss. I mean, they don't like signing corners so that their two best defensive players go, but they also need to make salary cap space as well. We'll see if Rashid Rice is going to be even eligible to play next year with all the controversy going off this offseason while he's on off the field. So we'll see what happens there. Travis Kelce coming back for one more year. Kenneth Walker, I think, helps them out
I agree.
a lot more because now they have an established run game. And I think they're going to have a 1-2 punch for their running duo. I think Kareem Hunt, they let go this offseason. I do think an upcoming team, I think some just made some really good moves are the Raiders. I think the Raiders are starting to take a small step forward. It's still got a lot of pieces. They're probably going to take the young guy from Indiana here in the draft and build around him.
Yep. Mendoza. Yep.
So they're going to do a great job there. A team that I'm shocked that didn't do as much as I thought they would is the Chargers. The Chargers didn't really bring in some extra help to help with that O line. I thought they'd sign a few more guys to help because injuries have plagued them all last year. It's not like you can avoid injuries, but if they've had 2 consecutive years of it, should put someone behind that O line, some backup players. Haven't done that. Um, so that's a team I think that will miss the playoffs this year.
That's
Same.
true.
I,
Yeah, they could
I
easily swap with the Chiefs. The Chiefs did bring it. I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think Kenneth Walker will be big for them because they need a running game. The guy's a Super Bowl MVP, right? Um, and they bring back Kelsey, they bring back one of their other receivers. They actually brought in a guy who was sort of our backup defensive lineman, but he was also sort of a fullback
yeah.
for us. So there's a chance he could be like a factor that they try and rebuild a running game and sort of take the pressure off of Mahomes,
Mhm.
which I don't think is a bad idea. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no. Going off that, I think the Steelers are going to be a team to take a step back here again this year, firing their coach. But no Aaron Rodgers returning, so that team's going to be all brand new. I think Mason Rudolph is the starter
So is that
currently.
for sure that Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back?
I'm pretty sure he's not coming back. I haven't heard anything yet saying he isn't or he is. As of right now, I feel like he's not coming back. A team I think that will also be better next year will potentially be um, the Bills here. They said Bradley Chubb, D end, sure that because Joey Bosa is probably not coming back. D. Alfred at cornerback, Gardner Johnson at safety, and then trading for DJ Moore. So now they have a true number one. Shakir will probably be their number two. So I think they've gotten better, at least offensively, to provide Josh Allen some new weapons.
For
Uh,
sure. They needed that.
a team that's still in the same boat is the Cincinnati Bengals. They let their best defensive player walk.
Yeah.
I feel like at that team, you've just got to blow everything up. Unfortunately, you've just got to blow it all up. You've got to get rid of your star players.
What a missed opportunity.
It was a team that should have almost won a Super Bowl to now it's a dumpster fire. Middle of their bay to really describe it. A team that I think should go make a move outside the Rams for Joe Burrow that I would like to see would be the Houston Texans. I really
Interesting.
get rid of CJ Stroud. He looked clueless in the playoffs against the Pats when they played. I had no idea where he is. I think Davis would have played a lot better than him in that game,
You're not wrong.
which I think they should. I mean, they have enough assets to get rid of, I believe. And defensively, that's what the number one defense in the league last year, besides the Seahawks, maybe number two.
Yeah. I do
Um,
think I sorry to jump in again. I do think Houston improved their defense a lot. They brought in a lot of guys for their front. And it's hard to improve a defense that's already really good.
correct.
But like there were some guys that were leaving and they had to either bring them back or um or replace them with other players. And I think Houston did a really good job with doing that. They brought back EJ Speed. I'm looking at what they've done. Sheldon Rankins was really good last year. They brought in Logan Hall from
Yep.
the Buccaneers. They brought back that their big edge guy, or no, they brought in a huge guy, Danielle Hunter. Um,
Oh,
Huge uh, money for him. They brought in offensive line help, which they desperately needed uh, when to protect CJ Stroud. But I think that's an interesting. I think that's an interesting idea. Is for them to move off of Stroud. I don't think they're going to do that,
no, they
but
won't.
because I think they like him too much. Um, but if you want to stay competitive, these are the kind of hard decisions you have to make. And like going back to Cincinnati for a second, like Hendrickson now he plays for the Ravens. They spent all that money to keep those two receivers there. Obviously, Joe Burrow, they spent a ton of money to keep him there. And they've completely blown their opportunity. They not only did they lose to the Rams the Super Bowl, the year after they made it right back to the AFC Championship game and couldn't finish the job when they had a chance to go back to the Super Bowl. And I think they would have had a better chance against Philly in 2023 than
Mm.
they had against LA in 2022. And they didn't get it done. So, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that situation resolves itself. Well, let's just pretend it does, and he puts that team on his back. The you're running out of playoff spots in the AFC.
I think what you have one team that's probably not going to make it being the Steelers. So that division's kind of open. I mean, I don't really think the Ravens even got better at all this offseason. I think
Well,
what
I mean, I think they took a big swing trying to get Max Crosby,
they did.
and when that didn't work, they pivoted and they got Hendrickson, and they haven't made any other big moves really. Um, they did, I think, grab. one of our safeties. I keep saying the Patriots didn't lose that many people, and then every time I think about it, I'm like, well, actually, that guy went to the Ravens. But Jalen Hawkins played decently for us last year, but we replaced him with Kevin Byard. So I think that's Jalen Hawkins isn't going to be the reason why the Ravens are a better team. But I'm just saying they haven't they've made some okay moves, but it's all been on the defensive side of the ball, right? So um,
I mean,
I
that's what they struggled with as well.
yeah, but I also think they can't. Again, I always use this phrase. I don't think Derrick Henry is getting any faster. Lamar Jackson's not getting any faster. You're gonna have a new coach there. The guy I forget wasn't he the Chargers offensive coordinator?
Yes, I believe so.
So you have the Chargers offensive coordinator, and they looked like garbage against the Patriots in the, or no, was it the Chargers defensive coordinator?
Let me check
No,
here.
I think that guy was the Chargers defensive coordinator. Yeah. So they bring in the Chargers defensive coordinator, and their problems, yes, to your point, were somewhat on defense last year, but they still underperform offensively, and that's going to be how they win games. That's where all their stars are. So I'm confused on what their plan is, but I largely agree with you that the NFC, or sorry, the AFC North is wide open.
Yeah, it looks like he was the former Chargers defensive coordinator.
Right. Okay. So they're
Yeah,
bringing in a defensive guy to a team that has historically the last 10 years or so been, or as long as Lamar's been there, been a offense first kind of team. So I don't really know what the plan is there. Um, but yeah, that division's wide open. But again, somebody from that division is going to make the playoffs, and you could have two. Like I would not be surprised if you get two playoff teams out of the North. You're probably just going to get one though, but even so, you're probably going to get three out of the West potentially.
yep,
So there's not a lot of places to hide in the AFC. You're gonna figure out if you're good or not, and that's what I say. So I said all last year about the Patriots and some of these other teams that were surprising, like the Broncos being really good. Is you kind of get what you deserve, and if you're a good team, you're gonna get rewarded for that,
correct.
um, one way or the other, no matter what's on your schedule. So yeah, I don't really know. I if you had to ask me like maybe I'll pose the question to you like what's the likelihood what's more likely a team that made the final four last year missing the playoffs, so like the Rams, Seahawks, Broncos or Patriots, or a team that missed the playoffs last year like the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Buccaneers or somebody making the conference championship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, when's the last time the Super Bowl champ made it back to the respective championship?
Well, the Chiefs went to a bunch in a row. So other than them, not a lot. I
Not a
mean,
lot of teams after that.
yeah,
Um,
except unless you go back to like my Patriot teams of like when I was like younger or like the Chiefs. That's basically it. It's
correct.
really hard to get back. I mean, I know the Eagles, they went back and ended up beating Kansas City, but they had had a year in between. Um, yeah, it's really hard to do. I mean, the
It
Rams after you guys um won the Super Bowl was that the following year that let's see, that was the year that Philadelphia beat San Francisco,
yes, that's
and
the
then
year got hurt.
I I think didn't did you guys make the playoffs that year after you won the Super Bowl?
Uh, I yes, I think that's the year we. No, I think that's the only year we missed.
Yeah, and then because then the year after was the year that you lost to Philly, and
Yeah,
then Philly ended up winning, and then last year you lose to um who who'd you oh my God, Seattle. Thank you.
yeah.
Gosh, my brain. I actually think it's entirely possible that the two teams that made this is my hot take for March for about the NFL. We're only like 5 weeks removed from the Super Bowl, but um, I think it's entirely possible that the Seahawks and Patriots missed the playoffs, both of them.
I could see that. I can agree with it. I think that
Yeah,
uh
I think it's even more likely they won't win their divisions.
interesting. Yeah, I mean the Seahawks did lose a lot this offseason. The Pats will have a tougher schedule, just more competitive opponents this upcoming year. I do think that yeah, I mean it's just hard to say who you think. I think we're gonna have I think each year we're gonna have someone out of those bottom that's those 14. I think one of them will return this year, one of those four teams from the conference championships. And I do expect at least two new teams to make the playoffs this year. AFC and NFC being a wild card team this
Yeah,
upcoming.
and if that's the case, somebody's going to get knocked out. And I actually think that with New England, Buffalo got better,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to be playing a second place schedule. And that still might they're still going to end up playing playoff teams, right? They're still going to play the Texans, and they're going to play,
Correct.
they're going to play some hard teams. But I think I think it's entirely likely that the Bills win that division again, win that division, get the division back, force New England to be a wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's entirely possible, to my point, that the Rams of the 49ers win their division. Because I think, the Rams got better, obviously, with the trades we talked about,
Yep.
and then, or the trade with Kansas City. And then, the 49ers are, they know how to build a roster. Everyone always talks about them, and we rightly do it, talking about them getting hurt all the time. But they always end up finding enough guys to at least make a playoff run. And sometimes it's all you can ask for. So, yeah,
With
I would say to answer my own question, what's more likely? I think it's more likely that a team outside the playoffs last year makes the conference championship.
Ooh, interesting. So out of for both the AFC and NFC, who do you think would be the one team in and one team out who made it last year, but who's going to be out and who would potentially be in to replace him? One team on both sides.
So for the AFC, I would probably say I would not be surprised if um, Jacksonville takes a step back,
Mm,
because it's kind of what they do. They have one great year where they put it all together for one year, but and get as far as they can, and then kind of flame out.
yeah.
So would not be surprised if that happens. And then I think the obvious answer is that the Chiefs make it back to the playoffs. Mahomes and Andy Reid are just too good. Um, and then in the NFC, I think the Bears had a great year. But the Bears are gonna, and so did the Panthers. But I think the Panthers or the Bears would probably be who I'd say, if I'm allowed to pick two. And then, I think you're gonna get. I mean, Tampa has lost some good players, like they lost Hall and Evans.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Washington has made some good moves. So I'd probably say Washington gets back in.
Okay.
And then if I have to pick somebody else, I actually think, the Giants with John Harbaugh is an intriguing possibility.
Interesting. Okay.
And the other intriguing possibility would be, I know I'm giving you way more than what you asked for, so I'm sorry. I just over deliver, I guess. Um, Dallas is intriguing, you
Mm,
know, because they still have they were pe- they were still a second place team last year, even though they had a bad year. So, like yeah, I think, and I thought they finished pretty strong last year. Um, so that's what I'd say. What about you?
tough. I mean, I I do think the Jags will stay in it this year. I don't think they'll be knocked out again. Um, I'm trying to think who are the three wild card teams this past year. You had the
Oh, you
Bills.
guys. Oh, were we
Houston.
talking about AFC?
Yeah.
It was Bills, it was Chargers, and it was who would have played the. 4 seed would have been the Steelers. It was, yeah,
Yes.
Texans with a 5,
Yeah.
Texans with a 5, Bills with a 6, and Chargers with a 7.
I I honestly think that the Chargers will not make it this year. And I honestly think the Texans won't make it this year.
Well, and the Steelers, there's you have a chance that all three of them could get pushed out.
Correct.
And
I
then
think
you get replaced by probably the Chiefs, maybe the Ravens, maybe I
I
don't
think
know,
I
maybe
the
somebody
Colts.
else.
Yeah, so I think the Colts are going to win their division. The Jags are going to be a wild card team. I think Houston takes a step back because offensively they just can't muster anything with CJ Stroud. Defensively, they'll stay in games, but they're playing with a tougher schedule now compared to the year before. And then I do think in the NFC, the Lions just barely missed it last year. Same with the Cowboys, but I don't think much is going to change. Maybe I mean, the Niners are going to play a similar schedule they played last year. So nothing too crazy there. I think they still have a chance to make it. Um, so I think a team that's going to be missing out is probably going to be those Bears. I just think
Yeah.
they took a step back. They got rid of DJ Moore, and that's just what their number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
So
He's
you know,
okay. Yeah.
who are they going to go rely on next? Um, I think Detroit's going to take that division back next year
Yeah,
potentially.
Detroit is another team that probably is going to be back in the mix.
Packers have unloaded a lot this offseason with trades, which I was very surprised, especially on the defensive end. I mean, yes, they'll get Kraft back as their number one tight end, but Jacobs was hurt all last year. Their O line hasn't been great. So I think potentially they're going to move as to a wild card spot, as you talked about before. The Cowboys, I mean, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They just don't have a defense. I mean, you could score 50 points, but if you allow 60, you ain't going to win games.
Right, and that's the difference between the Cowboys teams the last couple of years versus the ones from like 5 or 6 years ago. Um, and like they did tag George Pickens and they did bring back Javonte Williams. So they're again, like you said, they're building an offense, which has never really been their problem.
No,
Yeah, that's bizarre. And well,
and I,
if Dak is on the field and playing well, they usually are in games.
yeah,
You know, they usually only get blown out if there's an injury or they turn the ball over. Like
correct.
if he's they're a competitive team. Jerry builds his team that way. They rarely bottom out unless there's an injury. So yeah, kind of like Pittsburgh in that regard. So yeah, I'd say that. So to wrap up the show here, do you want to do a way too early Super Bowl pick, like an 11-month out Super Bowl pick?
11, all right, 11 months. Jeez. Um, do you feel ready for that, or would you rather go
Ah, do you want to
championship?
do like a
Let's do NFC. Let's do championship games, AFC, NFC.
okay. Yeah.
Predict two early division champs.
Okay, so I'll do division champs and then I'll do a conference championship. So yeah, I
Okay.
think the Bills win the East. I think the if you ask me, I think probably the Ravens win the North. I think the probably think Jaguars win the South, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take a step back. So but I'll stick with them. Um, and I think the Broncos probably win the West, but I think the Chiefs are probably the second in the West. So I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. So give me a give me like a Buffalo at yeah, give me like a Buffalo at Denver AFC title game.
Ooh, a rematch. Okay.
Like a do-over of the game from last year. That was probably the best playoff game of the whole playoffs, honestly. Um, that or your game when you beat the Panthers. Those are probably the two best games of the whole playoffs, in my opinion, unless I'm missing one. Um, and then the AFC, or sorry, NFC, I'll go I'll go Rams West. I'll go South. Gosh, the South is just a dumpster fire. I think Atlanta's the one team we didn't talk a lot about. They could be better, but Tua, yikes. Um, Probably, gosh, that one's hard. Any of them could win, honestly. So I'm skip. North. Probably Detroit. Probably Detroit makes it back. I think they're gonna get a little bit of redemption, and then the East, I'll go Washington. Yeah, I'll go Washington. I'll go. This is my redemption year. And then give me a Rams at Lions.
Wow. Okay.
No, that's lame. I don't know. This is way too early. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall. What do you think? What do you think? I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with the AFC East here. I do agree. I do think Buffalo's going to take it back this year. I think they made some crucial moves that are really going to beneficial them offensively and defensively. Josh Allen now has a number one, like when he had Stephon Diggs. Um, I do think the Pats will be a wild card spot. I do think they'd be toward that 7 seed. Looking at things, look at the AFC North. I think Baltimore will get in just because they look like the most complete team in that division.
Yep.
It's hard to say. But if Joe Burrow has that phenomenal year, if he doesn't get hurt, they could make it. So we'll see what happens there. As I said before, the AFC South, I do think the Colts are going to win that division. I think the Colts, they looked good last year. If Daniel Jones didn't get hurt, I think this would have been a different team. Um, and then going for the AFC West, I do think it's the Denver Broncos. I think they're back where they are. I think the Chargers take 2 steps back. The Chiefs will take a step forward in that division. So for the championship game, I'm actually going to go bold here. I think it's going to be Bills Chiefs, and this is the year that Josh Allen overcomes Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing that for how many years?
And then the NFC, start with the East. I think it's the Eagles. I think it's an obvious one. I think everyone is playing checkers while the Eagles are playing chess in that division. Pretty obvious there. NFC North, I think the Bears, like I said, they take 2 steps back. I think Detroit does take a step forward. Yes, they get rid of David Montgomery, but they did bring in Pacheco from the Chiefs. So they still have that 1-2 punch at running back. I still think the Packers will be competitive and make the wild card spot. The Vikings signed Kyler Murray, so they have no idea what they're doing with their quarterback situation. If I were the Vikings, I would look to trade Justin Jefferson. There's some value there, unless you're waiting to get a quarterback next year. NFC South, I think it's going to be the Panthers again this year. I mean, they were hit or miss all year round. If you lose a game, you win a game. You lose a game, you win a game. But I do think they
It
made the.
should have been you guys.
So I do think it's.
Yeah.
They did sign Jordan Field, for example, from the Eagles. They did make a lot of other ads, so I think they're going to be a completer team. It just depends on what CJ Stroud we're going to get, and if
You
they're going
mean what, Bryce Young?
or sorry, Bryce Young,
Yeah.
we're going to get from him this year because he's got some really good young wide receivers. But is that defense going to stay healthy and be able to cause turnovers? Is going to be the question there. But that division, they should cakewalk their own division, but they seem to pity patter against them. NFC West, I do think it's the Rams. I do think the San Fran will get plagued with injuries once again. And I think for the Seahawks, I think they just aren't bringing back enough that they should have from the Super Bowl. Being Kenneth Walker being their number one punch, not bringing him back is really going to hurt them, I think, offensively. And then losing, I think their number 2 corner, Wilson, to I think it's the Cowboys he signed with. I could be incorrect on that one, but he's leaving there. And for the NFC for a title game, that's a tough one. I would say we'll get a. I'll go a rematch of it'd be the Rams versus Eagles.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. I'm actually amending my AFC pick before we close the show. I'm going Bills at Pats or Pats at Bills in the new stadium. Here for chaos because the Bills are gonna have the new stadium. So that's what I'm going. I revised pick. Thank you, everybody. All right. Well, that's our way too early NFL prediction or way too early prognostication for the playoffs that are like still 10 months away. But I appreciate you all tuning in. We will be back. Probably talk some NHL next time we're both together on the show. Heading into the playoffs of that. That is closer. That will be easier to make predictions on when we get there because we'll actually be in the midst of the season and know how the teams are playing. But either way, it's still fun to do. Kyle, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate you doing that on again on a Sunday. And we'll be back next time for another episode of the show. Have a great week, everybody.